because we're home for such an extended period of time, it's easy to forget the basic rules when it comes to seatbelt laws here in Michigan. Here to give us a refresher, attorney Tom Sinus of Sinus Dramis Law Firm. Tom, I guess let's talk about those basic rules of a seatbelt and who needs to wear one in a car.
Well, thanks, Derek. And let's start first with the obvious, but it really bears repeating as often as we can. Here's some statistics. Almost 39% of people who were killed in motor vehicle accidents last year were people who were not wearing a seatbelt. Motor vehicle accidents are the leading cause of death for children ages 1 to 13. So obviously we have laws about seatbelts because we know empirically that seatbelts save lives. So what are the basic laws? Well, the laws depend on a couple of things. The first is, where are you sitting in the car? And the second is, what is your age? So let's start with the front seat. And this is the easiest one to remember. Any front seat driver or passenger must wear a seatbelt at all times. It does not matter the age. It's just as simple as that. What about in the back seat? Well, in the back seat, our laws technically depend on age. Now, of course, the common sense and safest thing to do is for everyone to wear a seatbelt. But let's start first with the children in the back. And here we're going to start with children between the ages of 8 and 15. By that, meaning ones who are likely out of their car seats or their booster seat. Those kids, when they're in the back of a car, they have to wear a seatbelt. If they're under the age of 8, of course, there's a whole different set of rules dealing with both car seats and booster seats that must be followed. We have a bit of a quirky system here when it comes to back-seated passengers who are above the age of 16. They technically don't have to wear a seatbelt, but of course they should.
All right, Tom, let's talk about the consequences. Obviously, it's everyone's choice if they want to wear. It's probably smarter to wear, but to each their own, I guess. But for those who don't follow the law, what are the rules?
There are consequences, and let's start with the one that's probably the most obvious. It's what we call a civil infraction if you break this law. Most people would think of that as a ticket. And that, of course, can be given to the driver, but it can also be given to passengers or anybody else who's required to be wearing a seatbelt. The other thing to remember is that if you are the victim of someone else's negligence, meaning most commonly, if you're driving a car and you're struck by a careless driver, if you're not wearing your seatbelt the way that the law requires, your claim against the person who struck you can be reduced. We call this concept comparative negligence or comparative fault. And in Michigan, we have a statute that says that those people who are required to wear seatbelts, obviously particularly front-seated drivers and passengers who don't wear a seatbelt, their claim against a negligent driver can be reduced by up to 5%. Now, it is important to remember here that these concepts don't apply to no-fault benefits. Obviously, no-fault benefits, by their own definition, we don't look at the issue of fault. So if you're injured in a motor vehicle accident, regardless of whether you're belted or not, you are entitled to those no-fault benefits without the reduction. But the basic takeaway here is safety, safety, safety. You can't wear these seatbelts enough.
Good advice always, Tom, indeed. Where do people track you down? They want more information from you.
They can find us online at www.sinusdramis.com. Shoot us an email at info@sinusdramis.com or give us a call, West Michigan, 616-301-3333.
All right. Thanks as always, Tom. Always good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, Derek.